everyone. So it's been a month and I wanted to share my January reads. I only read 3 books on January because I have just been so distracted. And maybe like the first book I read didn't really go off in a great start. So the first book I read this month was Bunny by Mona Awad. Bunny follows the story of Samantha, who is a Master of Fine Arts student, and she is an outcast among her classmates, but then the same classmates who is part of a clique called the Bunnies suddenly invites her to their group. And when she suddenly gets invited, she is strangely drawn to the Bunnies. She joins their rituals, and to her surprise, these girls have the ability to turn bunnies into men. But a lot of the storytelling blurs the line between imagination and reality. There is a point of the story where Samantha is so absorbed with their world that she becomes one with them, has the same thoughts and feelings, and could hear their own thoughts and feelings, and starts to reject her only friend and acts differently towards others. The book talks a lot about the belongingness that one feels when you are not part of a certain group or you feel isolated from them, and how it feels to just kind of go along with a group of people that have the same ideas. The novel blends a lot of themes as academia, friendship, love, their own traumas, and the artistic ambition. If I'm being honest, I thought the book was all right. It was not too bad, but it wasn't my favorite, although I really wanted to like it because it's like weird literature. I don't think I've ever read something like this before. I think it's very original. Because of the middle part of the book, it took me out of the fantasy, even though the middle of the book felt surrealism heavy. And it is when she becomes one with the other bunnies that made the book to me a bit slow. The pacing in that part felt off for me. And a lot of the book is really her her trying to grip into reality, and also sometimes holding on to the world of the bunnies. I thought it was just slow, if I'm being honest. But ending I thought was unexpected. I did not expect the ending at all. That was actually just my favorite part of the book. My favorite part of the book is probably the ending because it was something very unexpected and I would never have catched on to that, honestly. And I remember going through Reddit and looking at like theories of as to why that part happened. So yeah, it does raise your questions on the book. Or was it all in her head? Or was it real or not? So in that part, I really did like. Next book I read is Stoner by John Williams. I uploaded a short form kind of overanalyzing Stoner by John Williams in one of the characters in the book. And I think this book has just made like a profound impact on me, and I still think about it to this day. Very short book, but it packs so much. And this is the same feeling that I had with Madonna and Fur Coat, but instead, Stoner felt like you are his friend and you're kind of like going through his life as if it were your own life. And there's something about John Williams's writing that it's so simple yet so effective, that how it could like evoke emotions for me. So William Stoner is a man who came from poverty. His parents are just, average farmers. They're trying to make their ends meet. And one day he gets the opportunity to study in university. And there he experiences different, situations in life. And initially studying agriculture, he switches to literature. And he meets his friends, Gordon Finch and Dave Masters, and he loses one of them. He has a troubled marriage with his wife, and he has an affair, but also he is trying to become like a loving father, but still struggles with the relationship that he has with his wife. And like when I explain this, I feel like it's such a very like simple like synopsis of the book, but when you read it, it feels like, yes, it's simple, but it's so like, I don't want to say relatable. It is so human the way John Williams describes William Stoner's like feelings and how he just kind of like pushes on, you know, to his life. And it shows how William Stoner, he tries to become a good father. He tries to become a good friend, a good educator, a good husband. But then something like just happens in his life that it seems that like happiness is kind of taken away from him. And the only thing that he could cling on is his work and his love for literature. And that, I don't know, it's just the story is so beautiful. And I feel like I need to make a separate video kind of just like reanalyzing everything in Stoner. But I highly recommend this book, and this is a very favorite. This is probably like a favorite read already. If I had to kind of like sum up the top books of 2026, Stoner is definitely one of them. Like, I think this hands down has one of the best books I've ever read. The next book I read is Post Office Girl by Stefan Zweig, and this one I was very excited to read because I've been reading a lot of Stefan Zweig last year. Well, a lot means like one book and 2 short stories, but I am so used to his writing now that approaching Post Office Girl felt like it was kind of meeting a friend again, but in a different part of his life. And it really reflects on the writing. So just a backstory of the Post Office Girl, it was actually written I think before or after he was exiled from Austria because of, you know, World War II. The book is set after the First World War and kind of the impacts that it had on Austria and in this village that Christine, our main character, lives in. She has never really known luxury in all of her life. She lives with her sick mom and she just works a very mundane, repetitive job in this post office. And then one day her aunt, who has married rich in the US, invited Christine to a holiday in Switzerland. And at first she seems apprehensive, but then her mom insists of her going. And so reluctantly she hops on a train and decides to just go for it. And once she arrives in Switzerland, she is quite shocked with the differences of her own wealth and situation to the people around her when she has arrived. Like, she's brought into this very fancy hotel. She seems out of place. She has kind of like a gaudy jacket coat on, and she just has this straw suitcase thing, and she is very different from the people around her, and even they could notice that she just comes from a different world. And she becomes quite insecure of her position, but with the support of her aunt and her uncle, she becomes more confident. They give her like a very like princess makeover. She's in beautiful dresses and wearing jewelry and experiencing, you know, being carefree for the first time, to the point that it feels like she kind of has just forgotten about her old life. But one day a rumor just happens to spread around the hotel, and she is forced to cut her trip short and move back to her hometown. And she is very miserable. It changes her as a person, and she starts to see people differently at the same time. Like, these people have never known luxury at all, or like how to be carefree, and all they have ever known is like, oh, things are too expensive. The story of the Post Office Girl, I think, really tells a lot about the capitalism at the time and how, you know, happiness could be bought by like material things, whereas some people in the world will not have this glimpse of what life could be had it not been for the war. This one is also a very different book from what Stefan Zweig has written before. The story is not told in a perspective like of the past, but it's more like on the present. Beware of Pity is told in perspective of Hoffmiller telling it to like someone he met in a party. 24 Hours in the Life of a Woman is told by the lady who is just recounting past events. But this one is like at the present, which is interesting and quite different. It still kind of has that whimsical Stefan Zweig writing that I love and adore, but you can definitely tell the tone is much more different. And I can't help but feel that this reflects to what Stefan Zweig also feels at the time, you know, being exiled from Austria and having to change his whole life again. And yeah, it's just so interesting. I just really love Stefan Zweig. So that's it for the 3 books I read on January, and I'll see you guys soon.